Welcome to BeachLife UnLocked here in Ocean City, Maryland with my colleague Mike Dotson, myself, Mitchell David. Today we're going to give a little bit of a different type of approach. We're going to kind of wing it today and kind of talk some hot topics. I'm going to start the first one. You know, I keep on hearing that the market's going to crash, you know, the economy is failing. And so, you know, obviously we have feet on the street. Right, we do this every day. We talk to clients, we write offers, we negotiate. You know, what's your thought with that sentiment out there?
I'm not feeling that. Obviously, I mean, tons of buyers. You know, this time of the year, we typically see buyers return to the market anyway. This year is no different. I think there's a lot of optimism that I've seen from buyers. Interest rates are coming down, so I think more and more people are more willing to, you know, invest into a second home, you know, in Ocean City. So I'm not feeling the market. The market is going to drop or collapse.
Right. I'm with Mike. Remind you too, and I think I've said this before, I'm always more optimistic in general. It's just kind of how I roll, for sure. And so with the leads that we have coming in and watching this and writing the offers, I'm with Mike. There's a lot of buyers, and seasonally we're going to be high anyhow now. So not that there aren't some people losing some jobs, and we are getting the emails of, hey, we are slowing our search down, or hey, we've changed areas of search, or until some uncertainty in their positions. But for the whole, that's not the sentiment at all that I'm getting.
Yeah, based on the conversations I've had with buyers, I mean, it's just that's not the overall feeling, for sure.
Yeah, and again, I mean, you know, we're here to kind of explain to you anecdotally what we're seeing, and you know, and for the past 5 years, I keep hearing the same thing: is I'm waiting for the market to crash. Right, the market's going to crash. It's coming down.
There's never a perfect time to buy.
No, but the market's crashing.
Yeah, well,
everybody's been telling us that for the past 5 years.
It hasn't happened.
No,
it doesn't feel like it's going to happen. I think, like I said before, there's a lot of optimism. I think a lot of buyers are still confident. You know, they planned ahead. They made, you know, a lot of cash buyers back in the market.
A ton of cash buyers.
Yeah, a lot of cash buyers back in the market again. So, you know, I'm not seeing it. You know, but then again, you know, in Ocean City, we're usually the last ones to feel a recession or whatever, and the first ones to come out of it.
Correct.
Right? Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, because we're discretionary funds.
Yeah.
So typically the people who are buying here, for the most part, are people who are secure in their positions. Yeah. You know, and so when they're here, they're not overly concerned with the economy unless it directly affects their specific business.
Yeah.
But I think what I think you all need to understand, and we're talking to realtors and we're talking to buyers and sellers, is, you know, are we going to see the same appreciation that we saw during the pandemic? No.
Yes, I mean,
of course, but that's the ebb and flow of the market. Mm-hmm. You know, we're not seeing prices that were, you know, $500,000. Now somebody's selling them for $425,000.
Yeah, correct? Not 2007.
Right. We might see some price corrections on listings. Yeah. But I learned a pretty cool word. I just forgot it too. I was so excited. To talk about it today. I'll have to come back to it. I'll have to come back to it. But I think the other thing is too, and you know, Mike and I run into this all the time, is we talked about you know, emotions last week. Is unfortunately, properties are being priced on the higher end, right?
Yeah.
And so when there is a price adjustment to that property, people are thinking, oh, it's lost value. Well, has it really lost value?
No, I mean, I think the market has kind of told the owners what it's really worth, right? I mean, something's only worth what somebody's willing to pay for it.
Correct.
Right. So, you know, some properties that have been priced recently, we've seen price drops or price corrections. They're being corrected to where they should have been from the beginning.
Right, they lose value.
Right.
And I think that's what not everybody's understanding. I think that's the bigger picture is, you know, are there some things that the government's doing right now that's creating a bit of uncertainty?
Yeah.
Sure. But that's going to be whoever is in office, right? That's just how.
No one really knows what's going to happen until you know, their plan gets in place, and actually we get into a spot where, okay, we've enacted our plan and now we're acting on it, and we've had it for a little bit. Then we know where, you know, once things settle, we'll know where things are. But I think that's with any administration.
That's
regardless.
correct. Right, and I think
whether it's local, state, or
well, because the interest rates have come down, right?
Right.
I mean, so inflation, whether you depends on what day you look at it, has stayed the same, gone up a little bit, maybe come down a little bit, but the interest rates off the 10-year bond has started to do what? Come down, and I mean, I believe mortgage applications are up, especially refinances. I heard were quite a bit up. So it's, again, and remember too, this is how Mike had kind of alluded to it a minute ago, the market in Ocean City, or the market on the Eastern Shore, or the market in Annapolis, Maryland, is going to be drastically different amongst that group. Right, but it's definitely going to be different than what's going on in Florida.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I don't have my license in Florida, but from what I've read is they have a glut of inventory. Prices have started to come down there a little bit, and other markets that were super duper hot, they're cooling down. Well, that's what happens. That's what real estate is. That's right?
It's cyclical.
It is. And again, I think people get stuck into this, and I think agents aren't honest enough with buyers and sellers in this conversation is, look, you can listen to the news all you want. You can try to prepare for it, but really it's going to be depending on what market you're buying. And I mean, Delaware is hot as heck right now.
Right.
A
lot of new construction in Delaware for sure. All over the place. I know that they're discussing another 800 houses, housing development in Delaware right now. They're trying to build.
Property taxes, sales tax, that's super advantageous for some people who are retiring that want to have, or on that fixed income type of budget. And I guess that's the crazy part about this is, as we try to develop this podcast, vlog, whatever you want to call it, is, I myself get lost in facts sometimes instead of actually just, saying what it truly is going on, and from our perspective.
Yeah, I don't think it's too much getting lost in facts. I think it's getting lost in what the news is telling us.
Correct.
Right?
Or not telling us.
Or not telling us. Yeah, I mean, for me, I can't even watch the news anymore, just because it's always doom and gloom. Oh, everything's crashing down.
Right.
Well, they've been saying that for years, and it hasn't really come to fruition, right?
No, I mean, this past weekend, there was a property in Bayside listed for $1.65 million. My client was one of 4 people who wrote the offer. 2 of them had escalation clauses.
Above ask.
Above ask.
Yep.
Okay? $1.65 million. In a single family home.
Somebody's got money.
And here's and this is what I'm trying to say. And this is the frustrating part is, unfortunately we're only as good as the information that we're fed, right? Yeah. And so sometimes it's this type of information that's not your main street media type of thing that people can relate more to.
I think for us and our clients, our customers and clients, we need to provide the information of actually what's happening here, right, locally, because that's really
on the ground.
That's what, right? We're boots on the ground. We're here every day. We know, we know what's going on. We know what's actually happening, right? You watch the mainstream media and they tell you, oh, we're going into a recession. Market's going to crash, which market did drop yesterday.
Yeah, sure,
drastically, but here locally, there's still a lot of optimism. There's still people buying. There's still people, excited about getting a second home, living at the beach, or having a place at the beach. So for us, it's different. We live in actuality here.
There's a cool NAR stat that I heard, I don't know, a week ago. When a property sits on the market for 140 days, that's when the property actually flips to be more of a buyer market. Okay. So we talk to clients all the time when we list a property. Hey, we're going to know in the first 14 days where we stand. After 14 days, we go 30, 60, 90. Right. Well, a healthy market is where properties are sitting that 60 and 90, right? That means that the competition's there, it's balanced.
Yeah.
And again,
it's not a seller's market, not a buyer's market.
And we spoke about that, and it's still true today. We are still a property-specific market. People are paying a premium for properties that are in great shape. On the information or on the text message and emails that we get when people, come back at us and go, because we send out a lot of messaging a day.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we have systems that Mike and I are on the phones, we're texting, we're emailing, and not every single response, I would say probably only about 10%, I'm waiting for the market to crash. I'm waiting for the economy to crash. And it's a hard conversation to tell somebody, hey, that's not the situation here.
We got those responses when interest rates were 2.5%.
That's true.
What I mean? People were like, oh, I think the interest rate's going to go down. Right. Well, you ain't getting much better 2.5%. We're probably not going to see that again.
No, I mean, again, I would agree with you. I think in my lifetime, obviously, back in the 80s, when the savings and loans were crashing, well, I know you don't, but my dad sold commercial land, commercial property, owned restaurants, and so it was the savings and loan debacle back then in the 80s. For us to see it back in the 2s and 3s would be mind-boggling to me if that were to happen.
That would be very surprising.
I think realistically, we can see back in the 5s.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think that's super doable. What the time frame that's going to be, I don't know. But again, I look at everything in more of a glass half full. It's just how I do things, right?
I guess you could say that. You do?
Well, no, I do. I do. I mean, I'm definitely a contrarian when it comes to going back and forth battling, somebody on a point of view.
Yeah.
But for the most part,
I think it's all based in what your experience is, though, right? Because you're actually here, you see what's happening in our market, right? And then somebody comes from the outside, because most people, right, that come here are from outside of this market. Maybe when where they live now, things aren't great, right?
Correct.
I mean, if you're coming from D.C., property values did drop in D.C. recently, right?
Correct.
There's more properties on the market.
Correct.
So property values did come down a little bit, but that's not the reality here.
Well, so
you're actually operating and having discussions with people who are saying those things to you based on what you know here.
Well, I mean, but again, what I would say would be this: even if the market started to go down here, and when I mean down, I don't mean a property being overlisted and coming into market. I mean, if property values were starting to come down and there was a glut of inventory, well, that's actually a good thing too, right? Because that means more opportunity for buyers,
yeah.
Right? So I think in real estate, what you have to really hone in on is that there's always a flip side to the coin, right? So if we're in a super crazy market, the sellers are super excited.
Yeah.
If we're in exactly, and if we're in a market where there's a ton of inventory, where the buyers are. So again, people can't look at it as the world's coming to an end.
Yeah.
Right now. Should you be smart? Right. Well, should you be smart with your money? And like you just said, plan. Like if you're in DC and potentially your job could be cut, sure, you probably don't want to go out with discretionary funds. Yeah. But that's only one segment of our buying pool. We're 3.5 hours from, Philly, New York, Washington, D.C., Virginia Beach. I mean, we have all these great, gigantic hubs that people come from to buy here that support our economy here.
Yeah, like I said, what's happening in those markets, even just 3.5 hours away, doesn't dictate what happens here.
It does not,
right? Because it's always been that way. Ocean City has always been a second home market. Ocean City has always been, people that do have the ability to buy and have a second home, if you will, elsewhere. So those people tend to be able to spend.
They have the means. Right, and so it just paints a picture. There is no national real estate market in general. Yeah. I mean, of course, if you have something that we had back in the 2009 when the whole economy crashed, that's a different scenario where that was extenuating circumstances brought in as a whole, or in the pandemic, which actually dropped, but then it flourished it. So again, in general, you can't compare what's going on in Arizona with what's going on in Maryland. And even within Maryland, there's different segments of super busy or, a certain area that's just been overbuilt or has too many properties in it. And that brings the prices down. I mean, Em and I were looking at townhouses yesterday in West Ocean City. And so we have a lot of development out in West Ocean City, right? And so when they first, what did you sell that first townhouse out in West Harbor Village for? $565?
You're talking about Sea Oaks?
Sea Oaks, I'm sorry, Sea Oaks.
Yeah, 571.
571, right? But as they started to build more of them, the inventory got up, right?
Yep.
And those prices started to have come down. Now they're starting to settle on
right.
Five. And now they're starting to settle and starting to go back up. There's a couple of resales out there that are listed at $600,000 in the net mid fives. But again, that was simply just due to what? Supply.
Right. At the time, they only had a few houses available in a new construction community. Now they're just about built out, and they've gotten to a point where they have the last couple houses left, and they're trying to get rid of them so they can move on to the next.
Move on to the next cycle, and I think that's what real estate agents don't do a good job at. I don't think we do a good job talking to our buyers and sellers about that information. I don't want to say we're afraid to have that conversation.
I think you and I are a lot different than other agents, though.
True.
We tell people how it is.
It just is what it is.
I never want somebody to make a decision that's not good for them and their family, right? And so I just give them the facts. Here are the facts. If it makes sense for you, let's put an offer in. If it doesn't make sense for you, let's keep looking for something that does, right? And so here, some people may come here looking for direct oceanfront, 3-bedroom. Well, is that really a reality for everybody?
No.
So, maybe ocean block, 2-bedroom makes more sense. Make do with that. So, for me, I'm just honest with people. Right? Do I want to sell all oceanfront? Sure. I want everybody to have an oceanfront view.
Right.
You know what I mean? But this is not realistic for everybody. And so, I think people that listen to the news tend to think that this isn't even an option being here.
Correct.
Right.
Well, that's the other thing. That leads me to the other thing is the option part of it. Like we hear all the time that homes are unaffordable. Mm-hmm. It's an unattainable dream. But what people don't realize is because they're all like, you have to have 20% down. No, you don't. No, you don't.
Even for
in some situations here in Worcester County, you can get a USDA loan for 3% down. Right?
For primary, yep.
And you can get gift money from a family member, which is allowable. So again, don't base your information from what you hear on the media in general.
Right.
You really shouldn't have that conversation.
Speak to somebody locally and get people that have boots on the ground and actually have been through this and deal with this every day like you and I do.
And as a whole, as an industry, we need to do a better job too, though. I mean, I truly do believe that. I think, like I said, I think a lot of times we walk a little lightly or tread a little lightly.
You don't want to offend anybody.
Because we don't want to offend anybody or be like, no, you're 100% incorrect. I mean, unfortunately, we'll have that conversation with people, and it's cost us buyers and it's cost us sellers. I mean,
I'd rather be honest. Somebody buy something that
that's
isn't
correct. And there's nothing worse to me than not knowing, but you think you do know, and the information that you talk about is completely incorrect. Mm-hmm. And that does bother me.
Yeah, a lot of misinformation.
Yeah, well, especially with this.
Disinformation.
Because I don't think people want people to own property. Like, I mean, again, I'm not being a conspiracy theorist on this. I truly believe, I do. I think sometimes, because there's so many programs, like I do believe that Fannie and Freddie are going to be privatized again. Right now they're in some type of conservatorship with the government. I think that's going to open up a whole bunch of different lending programs. I think whether you like Trump or not is irrelevant to me, but I think you're going to be hearing buy baby buy, right? Like drill baby. I think you're going to, because I think, part of the inflation number is house values. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that he thinks he can control, and I think that's going to start, he's going to be working on that.
I think homeownership is second to none, right? As far as wealth building, building generational wealth.
Generational wealth.
I think real estate is proven to be the most effective or the best place to put your money.
That's not what Grant Cardone says. He says don't own a house.
Own all the houses, but don't live in any houses.
Don't own a primary house.
Yeah. But Dave Ramsey says own a house, get rid of any other debt, only have a mortgage debt. The only debt you should have is mortgage debt. And insurance is important.
Well, we'll segue.
I don't want to get into it.
But this is the crux of it all. Is that, and Mike said this on I think the very first episode. For everything that you tell me, I can find something out there that's opposite, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, Mike's 100% correct. For wealth building, for generational wealth, home ownership is super important.
Second to none.
Second to none. Look,
and I'm not just saying that because we're real estate agents, but it's true. I mean, it's been proven over the last 100 years, right? Home ownership, right? It actually helps families get out of maybe bad situations, right? You're able to buy a house and sit on it for, let's say, even 10 years, right? The value is going to go up, and you're going to be able to move your family into a better situation.
Or you leave it for family.
Right. And they're able to.
And they're able to have that. Their barrier to entry is a lot lower than it was before that.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. And that's why I think it's sometimes we don't hear about all these great programs out there for first-time home buyers because. Again, not to be a conspiracy, I truly believe that people don't want people to advance themselves in that. So, look, I own rental properties.
I don't want to believe that, but
no, I don't.
You might be right.
Yeah, look,
I don't want to believe.
My dad said this, and I tell my kids, I give them cliches all the time. Nobody takes care of you like you, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not that I can't trust you; I can't trust everybody, right? Those are stupid, silly cliches, but it's real life. The cliches are because it's real life.
Yeah, it's actually happened. It's actually proven over time.
Over time, look, I own rentals. I own rental houses, and I love the rental market. But nothing makes me happier than to see somebody not rent for me and go buy something. Because there's always going to be renters, and there's always going to be buyers.
Right. Or even better for you, having so many rental properties. Like if you sold one of your rental properties to one of your tenants, I mean, wouldn't that make you feel good?
Well, the new law in Maryland is that a tenant actually gets, crazy enough, the tenant actually gets their first right of refusal. Like if I'm going to sell a property in Maryland, one of my rentals, I first have to make an offer to the renter, if there's currently a renter in there, and then they have so many days to make a response, and if it doesn't go through, then when I do list it, if it goes below, I want to say it's 10%, I don't know the exact number, I then have to go back to the renter to see if they would be willing to do it at that price. So to answer so again, home ownership is a priority because people understand generational wealth.
And I think there are programs like you're discussing where people, I guess, government wants people to be able to get into home ownership, right? But so for you to say that you don't think anybody wants people to buy property. You may not be wrong. I don't want to believe it.
But you don't hear it on the news.
Exactly, that's my point. Nobody talks about it.
They don't talk about it.
On the news. So
I mean, what do you always hear about? Here's what I always hear about. You got to save 20%. And if you don't, because why? What are you going to hit with? You're going to get hit with PMI.
Yeah. Property mortgage
insurance. For people who don't understand, property mortgage insurance is you paying for the lender to have insurance on you defaulting on your loan.
You're buying insurance.
You're buying insurance based off of that. So you're spending your money. Now, it's not a whole bunch of money, but it shouldn't be a reason why you don't enter. And again, these are the rumors that are going around. We'll see what happens. My understanding is that PMI
going away?
Not going away, but it might be drastically reduced again to foster that buy baby buy sentiment.
So maybe they'll be reducing it to maybe 10%?
I don't know yet. My understanding is, from listening to, obviously the people, we listen to our own podcasts, we read some different things. That is my understanding that may be done away with. Or I shouldn't say done away, to reduce so it's not, $80 a month, $90 a month, $150 a month, depending on what your value of the property is.
That'd be nice. I'd be okay
huge.
With that. Yeah, I mean, it saves people so much money.
Huge.
I mean, it's not a lot of money every month, but when you add it up, let's say it takes you 10 years to get to that 80% loan to value. That's a lot of savings.
Well, and they said obviously when Fannie and Freddie get back to being, privately owned without the conservatorship, that there's going to be a good handful of other products that are going to come back out as well. Now, we'll have to be careful with that because that's what got us in trouble last time, right? People who should have had loans and who might have judged because I was there then when literally you could go to closing and get money back, right? I was part of that generation that did that. It was crazy.
How'd that work out?
It was crazy. Well, it depends who you talk to and what happened afterwards. So but again, what I'm saying is, I just wish we wouldn't be so closed in of saying 20%. Even at the beach, do you hit that 20% down?
No, 10%.
10% for secondary.
I actually had a buyer bought a second home. They were able to go through, I think it was Navy Federal maybe, and they got a 5%.
Really? Wow.
Second loan or second home loan. That was a couple years ago. I don't even know if that's even an option anymore. But
No.
I mean, there are options out there.
There are.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you're not cash heavy, but you make a good salary, there's still opportunities for you to get, go down that route.
Yeah, and even first-time home buyers, like you were saying, I mean, there's opportunities. 3.5% for an FHA, 0% USDA. There's options that I don't think gets talked about enough.
Correct. Agreed.
There's opportunities for everyone to own houses, and I think everyone should own a house, right? I mean, for you, it may be not great because you have rentals.
No, I think it doesn't. I do. I think it's great. I always think home ownership is great because I think what happens is it then allows those people who are renting to go, and then it opens up that spot for that next generation who can't afford right away to rent.
Yeah.
Look, I'm with the 90-day thing. I like a balanced market because it's healthy for everybody. And in a balanced market, everybody makes money.
Right.
Right? It does. We do across the board. I mean, I think that is what people need to realize. And I think that's why I hate the headlines like the market's going to crash or we're going into a recession. Like, okay, but we've been here, we're going to go into a recession since 2020.
Right.
Right? I mean, we have been.
Still waiting for it.
We're still waiting for it.
I don't think it's coming. I mean, we're not in a position like we were in 2007 where we have a housing bubble that's about to pop, right? Things have been brought under control. I mean, pricing isn't even back to 2007 levels.
In some situations.
In a lot of situations.
Right. I mean, and so what Mike's talking about is the last time the market was crazy here was 05, 06, 07. And that was like the height of the market. And then also we had 08, 09 right afterwards. But some properties, believe it or not, because we always get that's overpriced. And our thing is compared to what?
Yeah.
Right? Compared to 2018?
Expensive is relative.
Right. Or compared to historical. And we do numbers historically. So there are some properties at the beach that in 05 and 06 and 07 that were purchased higher than the value is right now.
Yeah.
Because of just how that market was back then. It was way before. And I call it, this is my term, it's called the rubber band effect. Where a property has gone, it will snap back and go to again. So for me, that's built-in equity.
Yeah.
So if you can find a property now that that's under the 2005, 2006, 2007, I think it's a great buying opportunity. I do. I think because I do truly believe it will get back to that point, right?
Yeah.
Because to me, that's zero appreciation. It's at zero appreciation for 20 years. Right, so eventually, and there's reasons why, and it could, and you'd have to make sure that it was, the property was the right property for that transaction. But for the most part here, it would be. I mean, it just would work well in that situation. Yeah,
I can't even think of a single property that would be that if priced today at 2005 numbers. Would be overvalued.
Well, the scenario would be if it was in a building that was getting crushed with assessments because of the reserve study.
Okay.
Right. I think the only.
So there are only very few.
Very few now. I think we're kind of working our way out of that as well. Right.
It's kind of behind us at this point.
At least we're running next to it now.
We caught up.
We got run over. We all got run over by it because while we were hearing about it, we didn't know exactly what it was going to do, and it was ugly.
There were a lot of surprises.
It was a lot of surprises. It was ugly for sure. But yeah, that's the nuance of any real estate market, right?
But like we said, eventually it's going to work its way out, right? And we're going to be on the other side of that. And we are where we are now, where property values are still, I think, in a good spot. Yeah. Honestly, I don't think there's anything. There are properties that are vastly overpriced, right? But that's the seller's fault. That's the agent's fault for allowing that, for even considering a seller that wants to list. We talked about this before. If you want to list a property that's 10% overvalued, there's no sense taking that listing because you're doing yourself and the client a disservice.
So this is why I enjoy Mike, because Mike and I will go back and forth on this. So
it's never a straight line.
No, a guy who I truly do respect in real estate is no longer with us, Mark Fritchley. I've learned a ton from Mark. Mark was the kind of broker that was, hey, if it makes you money, it makes your brokerage money, then it's a good thing. And if it makes your client happy, then you should go and do it. And so that was kind of his philosophy. But he also had another philosophy, that is, you want to control the market. And by what that means is you want to take the listings.
Get them wherever you can.
Look, and let's be honest, Mike is correct. Sometimes it's better to be the second lister on a property that's grossly overpriced. But his philosophy was this: why would you lose the listing? Have the conversation. We're always revamping what we're doing, and so this is an interesting segue into listings. I think I've changed my mind a little bit. I did, and Mike's right, because normally if I would go into a listing and they were like, it should be here, I'd be like, nope, I'm done. There's just no way. You know, how much money I'm going to spend on marketing and how much money, time and energy and effort for staging and getting the place ready. I just don't think it's going to be right because it's not going to sell, and then they're going to boot me because of no fault of my own, just because overpriced.
Listen, yeah.
So there's a really cool information that I've been reading about, and I mean, NAR has it as well. The kicker is this: if a property is on the market, especially in Ocean City, for 14 days, and you just haven't had any showings, it's probably 10% overpriced, right? Mm-hmm. So the conversation with the client should be this, to your point: hey, I'll take the offer, and we'll go with that number where you think it's worth, but with the understanding, and we're going to put this into contract, in 14 days, we're going to come down to this number here. Because we all know this number, this stat, and this is for everybody to understand. 90% of the time, if you overprice your property and you're unwilling to budge, and when you finally sell the property, you're going to sell it for less than you would have sold it had you priced it properly from the get-go. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just those are just numbers, and they don't lie. That's the factual stuff that we hate to talk about. But you know, you all need to understand that. That's super important to understand.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was the case. You actually sell for less than you would have sold it for if you would have priced it right.
That's correct. Because we all
makes sense.
Yeah,
now you think about it.
Yeah, well, short is because then you're chasing the market down, and and then all of a sudden you've now gotten to the buyer's psyche of what?
It's overpriced. Yeah.
What's wrong with the property?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Is it because it's a conversation we get all the time. Why is this property sold? It's a beautiful property. Well, it's just overpriced. You sure it's just overpriced? Is there something else going on in the building? Do they have bad neighbors? I mean,
not that we know of.
No, and that's the thing is, you know, there needs to be a game plan when you do that, and I think, you know, we need to circle this all the way back to the market crashing and, you know, the end of the earth. If there's no plan set in and you don't have the right information in front of you, you're easily scared.
Yeah, I think that goes back to you know, us being honest and giving people a full picture of what they're buying, what it actually looks like, what's going to look, you know, possibly look like in the future. You know, if you're honest with people. And they get a clear picture of what's happening in that local market, because that's really what matters. It doesn't matter what's happening. You know, like I said, DC has seen prices drop. Well, this is a different market than DC, right? This is we're in different areas, so things. Whether you're looking here or anywhere else, you need to know your local market. You do.
This goes back to success and failures, and I'm not afraid to say the failures, because you can kind of build on it. You really do, and I'm going to go back into the listing part, because I want you all to understand there is no exact science to listing a property, right? There's not. Even appraisers, you could have an appraiser go out, 3 different appraisers go out, and each appraiser is going to come up with a different number all the time, and we see it, right? I mean, sometimes on a loan, an appraiser gets flagged, and another appraiser has to go out to confirm that the appraiser was right, because there is no exact science. I'll give you a great example of this, and so this it's not a humbling experience, but it's a factual experience. I had that client who called me for the Blue Water East. Yep. This woman was dead set on a price that was completely crazy for the comps, and
according to you,
according to me, right, and their information. Yeah. And so I met with her. I talked to her. I gave her the comps. I gave her everything that we would typically do. Right, the facts, the information on. Hey, listen, and then she gave me her number. She would have listed property for, and I was like, I don't see you.
Doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense here at all. But guess what? It sold for that price in one day. Here's the catch. I then go relist a property in the building. Actually, there's multiple listings. Nobody has touched that price point again. Do you know why?
Because realize it was overpriced.
Well, here's the thing. We don't know when that one person's out there looking.
Right.
Right? And
sometimes you get lucky.
Sometimes you get lucky. So even in the comps, the information sometimes is not truthful, right? And that's, again, weeding out that information. So remember,
it's an outlier. And we see it a lot. We see outliers a lot.
Well, I think the market always dictates, but I think we have a pretty good picture where we
get a pretty good idea based on what has sold. Comparable, units, especially here with buildings with, several units in it. It's fairly easy to get an idea of what something might be worth. Obviously the condition of the property is going to affect that, right? If it's you got granite countertops and hardwood floors and high-end furniture that you're selling, it's going to be worth more than a property with laminate countertops,
correct?
Laminate flooring, or
Well, I think
vinyl.
Well, I think there's three important things that go into a listing and how you value it. I think we'll probably do a whole show on that for sure. But you are correct. I mean, I think look, if your condition's not good, you're not going to yield money.
And you got to be realistic. Some people just think they have the best property, and you walk in, correct. It's like, dude, your neighbor, just their living room is worth more than his entire unit.
Correct. Right. So I think that goes back. I mean, I think to circle back to where we started is, where is the market? What do we foresee what the market is, and are we buying into doom and gloom?
I'm not.
I'm not either.
No, I'm
okay.
Optimistic. I think I've been optimistic since the beginning of the year. I thought this year was going to be a really good year. I think I said it. We said it in our past videos. I still feel that way, even with the news telling us that we're going into a recession. I think we're going to. We might feel some pain, but I don't think we're headed to a full-on recession.
No, what I'll do, we'll do the check the tape thing. I'm with Mike on this. I feel that we're going to have a good 2025 for sure. I think we're going to have a good spring. I think historically we'll slow down in the summer months like we normally do. And I think it's really going to be the fall. I think the fall. I think with as many people as we have in the pipeline that are looking right now and asking the right questions, and the interest rates, if they continue to go where we think they're going to go from talking to lenders and different people and watching the information through a broad spectrum of news. Please check your sources. I think that we get back into the fall, and then I think that leads us into a really, really good 26. So I think 2024 is slower. I think 2025 is going to pick up, and then I think we're going to steamroll a little bit.
Full steam ahead.
Yeah, I do. Especially, again, if we can get into a more balanced market where we get a couple more listings. I would like to see about 600 listings on the market.
Okay, we're about 450 right now?
Yeah, about 450 now. I think that will get some more buyers off the fence because there's going to be more opportunity.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing days on market kind of tick up a little bit.
We definitely are seeing that.
And so, like you said, I think that 60 to 90 day is really the sweet spot for buyers that have been waiting. I think opportunities are right around the corner.
And it's for sellers to understand too that you're probably not going to sell in a day.
Yeah.
Unless you meet all the perfect criteria. Great location, perfectly priced, and the condition is a 10. And when I mean condition of 10, I mean everything. The building condition.
You walk in and you don't need to
do
touch
anything. It's coming fully furnished.
The building, especially financially
sound. Yeah.
Any work that needed to be done has been done or is planned to be done, and monies have been set aside for those projects.
If you can meet those criteria, then obviously you're going to be the outlier for that quick sale. But I'm with Mike. I think if you're a seller, don't be upset. It's okay. Let the market do what the market does. Plan for it. Understand that if you're looking for a quick sale, then maybe what you need to do is figure out where your deficiency is on the listing. Maybe it's not the best location. Maybe the building's having an issue. Maybe you haven't taken the best care of the property. So maybe you have to spruce it up a little bit, and maybe you price it accordingly, understanding we're going to price a property here shortly that I think that the sellers are super realistic. I got great sellers. They understand some of the deficiencies to the property, and we're going to put it right in that market, in that sweet spot. And I think it's going to go because of it.
Quick.
Yeah, I do. I think because we're not trying to stretch that price point. They're super realistic on where it is.
Yeah, I think some sellers are like you said, unrealistic, looking for top dollar, which obviously everybody wants to get the most they can get. But the market doesn't always bear that. And if you're realistic and you're looking for a quick sale, you price it right, you have good condition, like you said, it'll go quick.
Yep.
I mean, there are buyers in the market.
There are plenty of buyers. So, to wrap this up, look, find your information from reliable sources, understand all the information that you're looking at isn't always the full picture.
Know where it's coming from.
Right.
Yeah.
And seek out additional stuff. Right?
Yeah.
So,
research. I tell people all the time, I think we talked about this before, if for a buyer and a seller, research your market. If you don't know, ask. Find somebody that does.
Well, agents, educate yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, agents need to educate themselves and not rely. I think some agents are stuck in 2020 where it was easy.
It was easy.
Everybody was buying
you started in 2020.
Exactly.
So you've never been in a market like I've been, where we have 1,500 properties on the market and they're not selling after 250 days. And you're scratching your head like, what are we doing here? Where that's truly a buyer's market.
Right.
There's a lot of agents who've never had to experience that. So to adjust to that, it's taking them a bit longer because their sellers are pushing back against them, and they're just not used to that, right?
Yeah.
So we appreciate your time tuning into BeachLife Unlocked. We love that you come and watch us all the time. If you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to Mike directly, to him on his phone, or reach out directly to me on my phone, or you can visit our website.
BeachLifeOceanCity.com.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.